everybody, and welcome to Give Me 10 practical, short, and relevant conversations on the topics of leadership and ministry. Our guest today is Nicole Parker. Welcome, Nicole.
Hey, good to see you, Roger.
I am very excited to have a conversation about this topic because this is something that pastors in the 21st century are going to encounter, are encountering, and will encounter going forward. Me Too has come to the pew. So let's just address one specific area. There's a lot of places that we can go, but one specific area is this. Whenever there's an allegation about inappropriate behavior from a person in the church, especially if they're a leader, immediately what I see online is, well, we gotta let the process take its course. You can't judge before. What if they're making it up? What people have been known to make it up, and we don't know all the facts yet. So there's all these let's wait and see attitude. Is that an appropriate response? What would be an appropriate response, and what does that do with the victim when we adopt that posture?
That's a powerful question. I think it's important first to acknowledge a false allegation that ruins the life of an innocent man is an unimaginable tragedy. I'm a pastor's wife, so I can imagine, how awful it would be if my husband were falsely accused, and it ruins our lives, our kids' lives, all of that. However, we've got to think also of what does it do to a victim if they are falsely accused of lying? Mm-hmm. And then we have to think also, how likely is it that this is a false accusation? Research consistently shows that between 92 and 98% of allegations of sexual abuse or assault are true. Higher if it's young children reporting. So 95% chance this person is telling the truth. There is that 5% chance, and we have to be aware of that. We have to look for evidence. But when there's a truthful allegation, there's usually other evidence somewhere around, even if it's just other people who say, yeah, he's behaved similarly toward me. But often we don't do that research. And one of the first things that I deal with when I talk with a victim who comes forward to me and says, I need to talk about what my pastor or, some other leader did to me, I have to deal with them with the reality that they're likely to not be believed. But I emphasize to them that God is a God of justice. God believes them. God knows that they're doing the best that they can to protect others. Often that's the only comfort that a victim gets, because the first accusation that people level at this person is, you're probably lying.
Yeah, and that's tragic and unfortunate. Now, let's think about it from this perspective. If a pastor is approached by, let's say, a woman in his congregation, and or he or she is approached by a woman in his congregation, because pastors, men or female, and that woman says, this is what happened to me, what would be the appropriate response from the pastor to her? What would be some words, instead of saying, some strategies that I've seen in the past are, well, you don't want to ruin the reputation, so let's just keep it between us. Let's just try to fix it at the smallest amount of people possible. What would be an appropriate response when somebody's approached by somebody who has an allegation about somebody else in the church?
The first thing that I would say to do is believe them. Tell them you believe them, that you're really sorry that they're going through this trauma. How would you respond if they said, my car was stolen this week, I was carjacked, or I was held at gunpoint, or somebody broke into my house? You'd say, oh, I'm so sorry you went through that. You don't go, can you show me the proof of that? You go, wow, that's awful. Now, if other things show up later saying, this person's car wasn't really stolen, okay, you look into that. So investigation is still in the future, but you don't go, I'm sorry, I can't believe that, without 2 or 3 witnesses. And yet over and over, I hear that that's the first thing that people are asked. Do you have proof? Most of the time, you're not going to have proof. Even one of my friends who is a pediatrician. She told me when she goes to testify in a child sexual assault case in court, she takes along a scrunchie and says, see this? This is how a vagina works. This is why there's probably not going to be evidence. Most of the time, you're not going to have evidence like a carjacking or break-in at the house. Physical evidence, that is. Mm-hmm. So you have to go by other evidence. And just like if you had a car accident and the police are interviewing witnesses, they're going to take eyewitness testimony as a form of evidence. So you do have evidence when you have one person coming forward, even if you don't have physical proof.
Correct. That very, very good response. Now, would you have, and I'm asking you, knowing that you have the answer, what is when somebody is accused of being inappropriate sexually towards somebody else? Is that usually the first time that has happened? Because it's like, well, I've never done this before. This is my first time, and I didn't really mean it that way. Or is there usually patterns in people's lives, and it's discovered later on after they victimize people before that person that comes? When somebody comes out and accuses somebody, is it usually the first time they've done it, or is there a track record that nobody knows about?
That's a very good question. And see, this brings out the point. Predators, the book Predators by Anna Salter says that on average, child molesters have 50 to 150 victims before they're first arrested, and more after that, because they usually get away with it after the first arrest. And typically, I mean, we know that abuse is typically about power. It's not usually about sex. People want to assault someone because it gives them a sense of power. And due to porn being more and more prevalent, and about 89% of the most popular online porn, including violence against women and children now, it's escalating at an alarming rate that people fantasize and then they want to act out power in one way or another. Now, this is where we can see if a person has a pattern of being abusive or power hungry, that's additional evidence that they're likely the kind of person who would have committed a sexual assault just as well as other kinds of assaults.
That's a very interesting perspective. Now, if I'm a pastor and I see all this stuff that's going on and I want to educate myself, what would be a couple of resources that I can go to that would be very helpful to me, that are practical, that I can use right now? If you were to tell me, get this book first, and then after that, maybe one other resource that I could get or watch, or subscribe to, so I can be better educated and available when this happens. And I say when because it's going to happen eventually.
Yes, we know from statistics that 1 out of 3 women in the church has been sexually abused or assaulted, and probably 1 out of 5 or 6 men in the church. Some research shows that that's higher. Some people have found that it's more like 38% of girls have been sexually abused or assaulted by the time they reach 18. But what we know is it happens a lot. So when somebody comes to you, probably the most succinct resource that I could recommend is a book that I helped write with Jennifer Schwirzer and Sarah McDugal called Safe Churches, which you can find on Amazon. That one is written specifically for pastors and spiritual leaders, walking them through how to handle things. How do you know when this is a true allegation? How do you identify genuine repentance? These kinds of things. There are also some excellent books. Predators by Anna Salter, as I mentioned before. Even if you just read the introduction to Predators, your mind may be blown by some of the statistics and the realities. Also, The Seducers Among Our Children by Patrick Crough, Crough, gives some great information that's specifically for Christians and watching what's happening in their churches. So Safe Churches, Predators, Seducers Among Our Children, and also follow Psalm 82 Initiative on Abuse in General on Facebook or other places. Those are full of great resources.
All right. So our time is up. Well, we always have, and by the way, we're going to link those resources in the description, so you don't have to look all over the internet for it. It's just right there. You click on the link and you get to the resource, those 3 resources that Nicole has mentioned. So our time is up, but we call it one random question about nothing that we've been talking about. And we always ask a leader a random question. So in 30 seconds, can you tell me what's the best advice you can give to a pastor who has teenagers, right?
Teenagers. Well, I have 4 teenagers right now, 14 through
mercy.
18. Our house is a barrel of monkeys. We have so much fun and so much noise. I love it. I really love this stage. I would say come alongside them. You've got to be with them doing the stuff that they're interested in. Our job is always to reflect, both to the abused and to kids, a picture of the character of God. Show them who he is, and then they will have a God that they can trust, a God they can love. So I say, laugh with them, listen to whatever it is they're interested in, show them that you think they are incredible.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Nicole, for the time today. This has been Give Me 10, and we'll see you next time.